Should the government have the power to rip up private contracts? That's exactly what's being debated right now in Washington. And Senator John Kennedy just dropped truth bombs on this whole showdown over non-compete agreements. Welcome back to Capital Conservatives, where we break down the battles over your freedoms. I'm your host, and today we're diving into Kennedy's fiery clash with experts over whether the Fed should ban non-competes. Stick around, this one gets wild. You took the money, didn't you? Kennedy didn't hold back. He challenged Dr. Toussaint, an orthopedic surgeon who sold his practice to a private equity firm, then claimed he was trapped by a non-compete.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome to our witnesses. About 90% of my personal and political philosophy is don't hurt anyone else unless you have to defend yourself. Don't take other people's stuff and leave me alone. I believe in free enterprise. I believe in markets. I believe in the ingenuity and the persistence of the American people, of all people, humanity. Non-compete clauses are sort of like Senate bills. There's some good ones and there are some bad ones. Non-compete clauses, by their definition, are a restriction, operate as a restriction on both the employer and the employee. So from one perspective, there are restrictions on free enterprise. That doesn't mean that they're inappropriate in all cases. When it's necessary to protect business information, when it is necessary to protect trade secrets, when those agreements are negotiated by two parties of reasonably equal bargaining strength, there can be a place for non-compete agreements.
But Kennedy exposed the hypocrisy. You took the millions. Why cry foul now? I think you just regret the deal. What do you think? Should people who voluntarily sign contracts get a bailout? Drop a comment below.
They can also be abused. I don't think it's appropriate for example, a fast food restaurateur. I don't know if this example even exists, but I've heard some people allege it. Shame on them if it's not true. But if it is true, I don't think a fast food restaurateur should ask entry-level employees to sign a non-compete agreement. Then what's the point other than to restrict free enterprise? That makes no sense to me. I think it's also very important for us and for the courts to take a look at the bargaining strengths, relative bargaining strength of the parties. I don't believe in contracts of adhesion. I think that people ought to, all things being equal, ought to be able to address these issues with the same amount of leverage. Now, we live in the real world. I know that balance doesn't always exist, but it's something that we have to take a look at. Most state law, of which I'm aware, requires that non-compete agreements be reasonable. And courts, I think, at both the state, to some extent at the federal level, but generally it's a state issue, take a look at the length of the non-compete agreement. They look at the bargaining strength of the parties. They look at the terms. Obviously, they look at behavior is being restrained. Why is it necessary to restrain that behavior? What are the interests of the employee? What are the interests of the employer? And if they're reasonable and there's a legitimate purpose, I think in most cases they've, let me say this, in many cases they've been on. I'm going to stay as long as I can today. I'd like to hear your testimony. I'd like to ask you questions. We've got a lot going on. I think a vote has already been called, and I'm going to have to go down and vote. But what my friend Senator Warren said in her opening statement, notwithstanding about Republicans, it's kind of this Republican's point of view about non-compete agreements. Okay? Thank you.
Kennedy made the conservative case. If Elon Musk wants a non-compete with GM, that's his choice. But economist Heidi Shierholz argued all non-competes hurt workers. Who's right? They suppress wages. Kennedy fired back. You're blinded by ideology. Mic dropped. Hit like if you agree with Kennedy. Government shouldn't rewrite private deals.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy.
Dr. Toussaint, you're an orthopedic surgeon, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Where'd you go to med school?
I went to medical school at NYU, sir.
Okay. And I think you said you were at the top of your class.
Yes, sir.
And then you trained at Harvard.
That is correct.
And then you joined other orthopods in a practice, right?
That is correct.
How many orthopedic surgeons were in your class? Were in your practice, rather?
I don't recall the number of orthopedic surgeons specifically, but there were approximately 25 partners within the group.
And you were a partner?
Yes, sir.
Okay. A private equity company came in and said they wanted to buy you. Is that right?
That is correct.
And you and your partner sold, right?
That is correct.
And they paid you a bunch of money, right?
They paid me some money, sir. That is correct.
How much did you walk away with?
I walked away with nothing.
No, when they bought your practice, you were a partner. You were paid, right?
Right at that point, sir, I did not walk away, but I was.
Well, I didn't strike the walk away. How much did you personally gain from the sale to the private equity group?
I'm not allowed to disclose the details of the transaction, sir.
Was it over? Why not?
Because that is part of the transaction's restrictive agreement, sir.
Was it over $1 million?
I'm not allowed to say, sir.
Was it over $2 million?
I'm not allowed to say the amount.
It was a lot of money, though, wasn't it?
I do not believe it was worth my freedom, sir.
But you did at the time.
I did not, sir.
Okay. Why'd you sign the agreement?
Because it was, for the lack of a better term, I was compelled to sign the agreement in order to fall in line with the group, sir.
Here's why I think you signed the agreement, and I don't mean to offend you. I've seen these kind of transactions before. This is going on all over the country.
Correct.
I think the private equity group came in and offered you and your partners a huge sum of money in the million. And I think you took it. And I think later you regretted it and you wanted out of the deal. And I think that violates freedom of contract. And I will bet, no offense, doctor, but I will bet that you wouldn't be willing to give back the millions of dollars that you took away from the sale in order to get back your freedom to practice.
Can I respond?
Sure.
If I may respond, thank you for the opportunity to respond to your question, sir. I have to say that, number one, I was not in favor of the sale. That's number one. And number two, I have to disagree with your final statement without giving away any details. But I can say in my personal experience that is false, sir.
Okay. You took the money, though, didn't you?
The thing that I disagree with, sir, is whether or not I gave it back.
Yeah, but did you take the money?
I gave it back, sir.
You gave back all the money that the private equity group paid you.
As part of the
Is that your testimony?
as part of the settlement, I have to say that I had to buy out of the non-compete.
Yeah, I don't want to play games, Doc, but
Yes, sir.
when the private equity guys came in and said, we want to buy you out, you might have disagreed with your partner. Sounds like they outvoted you. You could have left the practice then. You chose not to. You chose to take the money, did you not?
If I chose to leave the practice, sir, I would have had to leave
Understand?
the state.
I get that. But you took the money, did you not?
Yes.
All right, here's the kicker. Progressives like Elizabeth Warren want to ban non-competes nationwide. Kennedy called it out, saying, "This is about control, not fairness. Republicans believe in free enterprise. This is a restriction." And hey, don't forget to subscribe now, hit that button, to see more moments where conservatives fight back against big government.
Okay, thank you. Doctor, let's suppose that Elon Musk decided to leave Tesla. General Motors hired him away, said, we'll pay you $50 billion a year because we, General Motors, are sucking wind, and they are. But if we sign you up, we want an employment contract, and we're going to show you all our intellectual property. And we're going to insist that you sign a non-compete agreement. Now, you got General Motors, you got Elon Musk, one of the wealthiest, if not the wealthiest, people in the world. Why should those two not be allowed to negotiate an employment contract, including a non-compete agreement?
Even if you're not a CEO, this affects you. Imagine your boss can't stop you from jumping to a competitor. Sounds great, right? But what if your trade secrets get stolen? Kennedy nailed it. Balance is key. Courts already decide what's reasonable. We don't need a federal ban. Kennedy exposed the hypocrisy. He defended free markets, and he reminded Washington, Americans don't need nanny-state rules to protect us from our own choices. So smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We drop truth every day. Next up, how Biden's latest regulation could crush small businesses. See you then.